Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Headline Spotlight, where we bring you the top news from around the globe. I'm your host, Chloe Wing, and here's what's making headlines this Saturday, August 31st, 2024. United States news. Trump campaign intensifies in battleground states. Former President Donald Trump ramped up his campaign efforts in key battleground states, focusing on Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. He held large rallies emphasizing his platform on the economy, border security, and government corruption, as polls show a tight race against the incumbent administration. Kamala Harris focuses on healthcare reform. Vice President Kamala Harris continued her campaign by pushing for comprehensive healthcare reform. Speaking at an event in Ohio, she highlighted the need for expanded Medicare and addressed concerns about rising prescription drug costs, positioning healthcare as a cornerstone of her campaign. Hurricane Clara threatens Gulf Coast. Hurricane Clara, a Category 4 storm, is bearing down on the Gulf Coast, with landfall expected near New Orleans. Mandatory evacuations are underway as residents brace for severe winds, flooding, and potential damage. Supreme Court to hear major gun control case. The U.S. Supreme Court announced it will hear a significant case regarding gun control regulations. The case could redefine the limits of the Second Amendment, with potential implications for state-level restrictions on firearms. Labor strikes continue in key industries. Thousands of workers in the airline and automotive industries continue to strike over wage disputes and working conditions. The prolonged strikes are causing disruptions in travel and manufacturing, leading to increased pressure on companies to reach agreements. Record heat wave hits western U.S. A record-breaking heat wave continues to scorch the western United States, with temperatures soaring above 110 degrees Fahrenheit in several cities. The extreme heat is exacerbating drought conditions and increasing the risk of wildfires. U.S. economy shows signs of slowdown. Economic indicators released today show a slight slowdown in U.S. economic growth, with GDP growth falling below expectations. Rising interest rates and global uncertainties are cited as factors contributing to the economic deceleration. California wildfires force mass evacuations. Wildfires in Northern California have forced tens of thousands of residents to evacuate. Firefighters are battling multiple blazes fueled by dry conditions and strong winds, with several homes and businesses already destroyed. Bird flu outbreak worsens in Midwest. The bird flu outbreak in the Midwest has spread to more poultry farms, prompting concerns about food supply disruptions. The USDA is working to contain the virus, but the impact on the poultry industry is expected to be significant. Tech stocks plunge amid market sell-off. Tech stocks took a hit today as a broader market sell-off affected major indices. Investors are increasingly concerned about the sector's overvaluation, and the drop signals a potential shift in market sentiment. Asia news. China-Japan tensions rise over East China Sea. Tensions between China and Japan escalated after a near collision between military vessels in the East China Sea. Both nations have increased naval patrols, heightening concerns over regional stability. India launches ambitious solar power initiative. India announced a major expansion of its solar energy infrastructure, aiming to add 100 gigawatts of capacity by 2030. The initiative is part of India's broader strategy to combat climate change and reduce reliance on coal. North Korea conducts another missile test. North Korea conducted its third missile test this month, firing a long-range ballistic missile into the Sea of Japan. The test has drawn international condemnation, with the UN Security Council planning an emergency meeting. Thailand's parliament approves controversial law. Thailand's parliament passed a controversial law granting broader powers to the military, sparking protests in Bangkok. Critics argue that the law undermines democratic governance and could lead to increased repression. Vietnam strengthens trade ties with Europe. Vietnam signed a new trade agreement with the European Union, aiming to boost exports of electronics, textiles, and agricultural products. The deal is expected to significantly increase bilateral trade in the coming years. Indonesia battles severe forest fires. Severe forest fires continue to ravage parts of Indonesia, with smoke affecting air quality in neighboring countries. Efforts to control the fires are ongoing, but dry conditions and illegal land clearing are complicating the situation. Japan's economy shows signs of recovery. Japan's economy posted stronger than expected growth in the second quarter, driven by robust consumer spending and exports. However, concerns remain over the sustainability of the recovery amid global economic challenges. Taiwan holds large-scale military drills. Taiwan conducted large-scale military drills, simulating a potential invasion by China. The exercises involved air, land, and sea forces, underscoring Taiwan's preparedness to defend its sovereignty. Philippines faces rising inflation. The Philippines is grappling with rising inflation, driven by high fuel prices and food shortages. The government is considering additional subsidies and price controls to alleviate the economic pressure on citizens. South Korea expands chip manufacturing. South Korea announced plans to expand its semiconductor manufacturing capacity, investing billions to solidify its position as a global leader in chip production amid increasing demand for advanced technology. Europe news. Germany's coalition faces internal struggles. Germany's ruling coalition is facing internal conflicts over energy policy, threatening government stability. The debate focuses on the transition pace to renewable energy and the future of nuclear power. France protests against pension reforms continue. Protests against French government pension reforms have continued for 3 weeks. Workers and unions demand the withdrawal of the reforms, arguing that they disproportionately affect older workers. UK and EU resume post-Brexit trade talks. The UK and EU have resumed trade talks to address unresolved issues related to Northern Ireland and fishing rights. Both sides aim to reach an agreement by the year's end. Italy declares state of emergency amid flooding. Italy declared a state of emergency in several regions following severe flooding that displaced thousands. Relief efforts are underway, but damage to infrastructure is extensive. Spain approves landmark environmental law. Spain's parliament passed a new environmental law to reduce carbon emissions and promote sustainable development, including measures to phase out fossil fuels and protect biodiversity. Russia holds military parade amid Ukraine tensions. Russia conducted a military parade in Moscow, showcasing its latest weapons. The event coincides with heightened tensions with Ukraine, as both nations increase their military presence along the border. Portugal launches major tourism campaign. Portugal has launched a tourism campaign targeting Asian and North American visitors, highlighting its cultural heritage, scenic landscapes, and cuisine as tourism rebounds post-pandemic. Greece battles wildfires in tourist areas. Greece is struggling to control wildfires in several tourist areas, threatening homes and resorts. Firefighters are working tirelessly, but strong winds are complicating containment efforts. Poland faces criticism over judicial reforms. Poland's latest judicial reforms are facing international criticism, with concerns that they undermine judicial independence. The European Union is considering sanctions in response. Hungary tightens immigration policies. Hungary has implemented stricter immigration policies, increasing border controls and deportations. While criticized by human rights groups, the government argues these measures are necessary for national security. Rest of the world news. Brazil's Amazon deforestation hits record levels. Deforestation in Brazil's Amazon rainforest has reached unprecedented levels, with significant increases in tree loss. Environmental groups call for urgent actions to protect this vital ecosystem. South Africa faces energy crisis. South Africa is experiencing a severe energy crisis, with widespread power outages affecting daily life. The government is seeking alternative energy sources as the country's infrastructure struggles to cope. Canada deals with historic wildfires. Canada is battling some of its worst wildfires, with thousands evacuated and poor air quality affecting major cities. These fires are among the most severe in the country's history, driven by dry conditions and strong winds. Mexico invests in renewable energy. Mexico announced a significant investment in renewable energy, focusing on solar and wind capacity to reduce dependence on fossil fuels and address climate change. Australia implements strict new asylum policies. Australia has introduced stricter asylum policies, including offshore processing and expedited deportations. While the government argues these measures deter illegal immigration, critics warn of potential human rights violations. Argentina's economy struggles amid inflation. Argentina faces severe inflation, with basic goods prices skyrocketing. The government has implemented austerity measures, but the economic crisis has led to widespread protests. Kenya launches universal healthcare pilot. Kenya has launched a pilot program for universal healthcare in select counties, aiming to provide affordable medical services to all citizens as part of its goal to achieve universal healthcare by 2030. Colombia faces political unrest. Colombia is experiencing significant political unrest, with protests erupting against government policies. Demonstrators demand changes, highlighting issues such as corruption and inequality. Turkey seeks to mediate Middle East peace talks. Turkey has offered to mediate peace talks in the Middle East, seeking to position itself as a regional leader. The move comes amid escalating tensions between several countries in the region. New Zealand introduces carbon-neutral legislation. New Zealand's government has introduced legislation to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. The bill includes measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote sustainable practices across various sectors. That's all for today's Headline Spotlight. Stay tuned for more updates tomorrow. Thank you for watching.
Welcome to today's Story Spotlight. I'm Frank King, and in today's episode, we're diving deep into the latest developments in the Alec Baldwin Rust shooting case. This high-profile legal battle has captured national attention, and today we'll explore the background of the case, the key individuals involved, and what led to the dismissal of the involuntary manslaughter charges against Baldwin. First, let's set the stage. The movie in question is Rust, a low-budget Western set in 1880s Kansas. The plot revolves around a 13-year-old boy who goes on the run with his estranged grandfather after accidentally shooting a local rancher. Alec Baldwin, a veteran actor and producer, was not only starring as the grandfather, but was also deeply involved in the film's production. The story began on October 21, 2021, when Baldwin accidentally discharged a prop gun on the set of Rust, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins and wounding director Joel Souza. The incident occurred at the Bonanza Creek Ranch in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Baldwin has consistently maintained that he did not intentionally pull the trigger and believed the gun was safe to use. Let's look at the key figures in this case. Alec Baldwin, the well-known actor and producer of Rust, who faced charges of involuntary manslaughter. Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer who tragically lost her life in the incident. Joel Souza, the film's director, who was injured by the discharge of the prop gun. Prosecutors. Carrie Morrissey and Erlinda Johnson led the prosecution, tasked with proving that Baldwin's actions amounted to criminal negligence. Defense lawyers. Baldwin's defense team, led by Luke Nickus and Alex Spiro, argued that Baldwin had no reason to believe the gun was dangerous and that he was following standard safety protocols. Judge Mary Marlowe Sommer, who presided over the case and made the pivotal decision to dismiss the charges. Now, let's talk about the legal process and charges. Following the incident, investigations were launched by law enforcement and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. In January 2023, the Santa Fe District Attorney's Office charged Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter, alleging they failed to follow industry safety standards. Baldwin's defense argued that he was unaware the gun contained a live round and that he relied on the professionals responsible for safety on the set. The prosecution was initially led by New Mexico 1st Judicial District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwies and Special Prosecutor Andrea Reeb. Baldwin's defense team included high-profile attorneys Luke Nickus and Alex Spiro, known for their work in high-stakes litigation. Andrea Reeb, who was also a New Mexico legislator, stepped down in March 2024 after Baldwin's lawyers argued that her dual roles violated the state constitution. Following this, District Attorney Mary Carmack Altwies appointed Kerry Morrissey and Jason Lewis as special prosecutors. In April 2024, Jason Lewis withdrew from the case, with Erlinda Johnson stepping in as a special prosecutor. Interestingly, Johnson resigned on the last day of trial, July 12, 2024, leaving before a hearing about whether an evidentiary issue meant the case should be dismissed, as argued by Baldwin's lawyers. The turning point came when Judge Mary Marlowe Sommer agreed with Baldwin's defense that the prosecution had suppressed crucial evidence. The judge ruled that this suppression made it impossible for the trial to proceed fairly. As a result, the involuntary manslaughter charges against Baldwin were dismissed on July 12, 2024. The decision centered on allegations that the prosecution had withheld exculpatory evidence, information that could have potentially exonerated Baldwin or, at the very least, cast doubt on the prosecution's case. This ruling highlights the complexities of legal proceedings, particularly in high-profile cases under intense media scrutiny. So, what's next? The dismissal of the involuntary manslaughter charges means that Alec Baldwin is no longer facing criminal charges related to the Rust shooting. However, there could still be civil litigation or other legal consequences stemming from the incident. Additionally, the Rust film project is expected to resume production, though with heightened scrutiny and enhanced safety measures to prevent such tragedies in the future. That's it for today's episode of Today's Story Spotlight. We've covered the background, key figures, and recent developments in the Alec Baldwin case. Stay tuned for more updates as the story continues to unfold. I'm Frank King, and thank you for joining us. See you next time on Today's Story Spotlight. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Today's Story Spotlight. I'm your host, Frank King. Today, we delve into the life and tragic death of a beloved actor who made millions laugh, but whose personal struggles often left him in darkness, Matthew Perry. Matthew Perry, best known for his iconic role as Chandler Bing on the hit TV show Friends, was more than just a comedic actor. Born on August 19, 1969, in Williamstown, Massachusetts, Perry grew up in a world intertwined with both Hollywood and Ottawa's political scene. His father, John Bennett Perry, was an actor, and his mother, Suzanne, served as press secretary to the Canadian Prime Minister. Despite his famous family, Perry's path was anything but smooth. Matthew's career took off in the mid-90s when he landed the role of Chandler on Friends. With his impeccable timing and unforgettable one-liners, Chandler became a fan favorite, and Perry found himself in the global spotlight. But behind the scenes, Perry's life was spiraling out of control. Like many in the entertainment industry, Perry faced personal demons, including a long battle with addiction to alcohol and prescription drugs. He spoke openly about his struggles, hoping to use his story to help others. "I was in a dark room meeting nothing but drug dealers and completely alone," he once shared. Tragically, Matthew Perry's story took a darker turn. In November 2023, Perry was found unresponsive at his Los Angeles home, leading to a storm of speculation and concern. For weeks, fans and the media were left wondering, what happened? Recently, we learned that Dr. Mark Chavez, a physician linked to Perry, has pleaded guilty to conspiracy to distribute ketamine, a powerful anesthetic that can cause severe side effects and even death when misused. Dr. Chavez, who was reportedly prescribing ketamine to Perry, expressed deep remorse to his lawyer, acknowledging his role in Perry's tragic death. According to ABC News, Chavez has agreed to plead guilty to the charges, a decision that sheds light on the circumstances surrounding Perry's death. The doctor's lawyer stated that Chavez is incredibly remorseful, knowing his actions contributed to the loss of a beloved actor who was trying to fight his way back to sobriety. Matthew Perry's death is a stark reminder of the pervasive dangers of addiction and the impact of irresponsible medical practices. It also highlights the importance of compassion and support for those battling inner demons. Perry himself was an advocate for recovery, opening up a sober living house to help others who face the same struggles. In the wake of his passing, fans and friends alike have mourned the loss of a man who brought joy to so many. Perry's former co-stars have all shared touching tributes, remembering him as not just a co-star but a brother. While the loss of Matthew Perry has left a void in Hollywood, his legacy as Chandler Bing and as a fighter for sobriety will forever be remembered. Let's honor his memory by supporting those struggling with addiction, advocating for responsible medical practices, and remembering that every life, no matter how troubled, is worth fighting for. Matthew Perry once said, "I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life, but the best thing about me is if an alcoholic comes up to me and says, 'Can you help me stop drinking?' I can say yes." As we remember his life, let's carry forward that spirit of compassion and support for those in need. Thanks for tuning in to today's Story Spotlight. I'm Frank King. Stay safe and be kind to one another.